Resourceful Designer, episode 37, 7 Ways to Save Money as a Graphic Designer.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He's on his 7th Macintosh computer, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I am extremely happy that you plugged me into your ears today and that you decided to spend a little time with me. Now I'm going to do something I haven't done before, and that's I'm going to start off this episode with a joke. I got this in my email this morning, and I thought, oh, this was cute. I should share it on the podcast. So here goes. An elderly couple had just learned how to send text messages on their mobile phones. The wife was a romantic type, but the husband was more of a no-nonsense type of guy. One afternoon, the wife went out to meet friends for coffee. She decided to send her husband a romantic text message, and she wrote, "If you are sleeping, send me your dreams. If you are laughing, send me your smile. If you are eating, send me a bite. If you are drinking, send me a sip. And if you are crying, send me your tears. I love you." To which the husband texted back to her, "I'm on the toilet. Please advise." I got a chuckle when I saw that in my inbox this morning, and I thought I'd share it with you. Well, I hope you're doing very well in your business. I've had a crazy week. My phone and my email has been going berserk with new clients and existing clients contacting me for all sorts of stuff. Earlier this week, I received 2 signed contracts and 2 deposit checks for 2 completely different websites that just so happened to be for 2 competitors in my area. They were both existing clients. One of them I had designed their initial website back in 2010 and the other one in 2012. Both of them contacted me to redesign their website. And it's funny because the same day I received the contract and deposit checks for both of them. And of course they don't know, but they're 2 big competitors against each other in my area. And here I am designing the websites for both of them at the same time. So I'll have to be careful with that one that I don't end up making them look too similar or making one of them look better than the other just in case they find out and they think I'm playing favorites or something. But that's a very interesting situation I'm in there. But I'm loving it. I love getting new work and new websites. And even though these aren't new clients, they're existing clients, I love getting new work. Now, something else happened this week. If you think back, way back to episode 2 of the podcast, which was entitled, "Do Your Clients Know What You Do?" And that was an episode dedicated to talking about how sometimes a client will hire you for something and they might not necessarily know that you do other stuff. Like if a client hires you to design a website, they might not know that you also design brochures and business cards, or vice versa. If you do their brochures and their business cards and such, they might not know you design websites as well. Well, it's kind of along those lines. I have a client that I've been working for a few years. It's our local fire department. It's actually a volunteer fire department. And every year they host this big firefighters challenge where they invite firefighters from all around the area to come and test their skills at different events. Well, I've been doing their poster for quite a few years now. And this year, being their 10th anniversary of the event, they asked me if I can update the logo and add 10th anniversary to it. And they had asked me if I can do it pretty quick because they need to get some t-shirts done for the event. So I updated the logo, and when I sent it to the woman, I mentioned to her, I said, "By the way, did you know I do t-shirts as well?" So the next day, I get an email from somebody from the fire department asking me if I can provide a quote, and they give me the specs on what sort of t-shirts and what sort of printing they want, the colors, and all sorts of stuff for the job. So I give the guy a quote, and a couple of days later, I get an email saying that my prices are much better than what they've been paying for the last few years, and he's going to gather up the quantities and all that, and I have the job. So that's great. I told this one person I do t-shirts as well as other stuff that she didn't know I did t-shirts, and now I got this new job from the fire department to do t-shirts for them. Well, the following day, I get a phone call from another company in town that I've never dealt with before, and she starts asking me about t-shirts and if I do them and how much and specs and all that. And I'm going through everything. And then when I ask her, I says, "Well, how did you hear about me?" And she says, "Well, my husband's the guy that works at the fire department that you're dealing with there. And when he was so impressed with your prices, he told me that I should give you a call. So that's what I'm doing." So next thing you know, I got another order to design and have t-shirts produced for this other company. The following day after that, I get another phone call from somebody else. And it turns out that it's that woman's brother who works for another company. And now he's contacting me for t-shirts. So by me mentioning to one person, all she asked me to do was add 10th anniversary to the top of their logo. And in doing that, I made one little comment in the email saying, by the way, I do t-shirts as well. It brought me 3 new jobs, 2 new clients that I've never done work with before, all for doing these t-shirts. Now, if you remember back in episode 12, where I talked about ways to earn extra income as a graphic designer, I mentioned how I do print brokering and that sort of stuff. So not only do I make money off designing the t-shirt, I make money on printing it as well, because I've got a t-shirt supplier and I've got a screen printer that I use, and I get them all coordinated. I get it all done. And then of course I mark the stuff up and I make money off the sale of these t-shirts. In one of the cases, I don't have to do any design work whatsoever. All the client wants is their logo on the front, and they have a catchphrase or saying that they're going to put on the back of the t-shirt, but they already have the artwork for that. They just want me to produce it. So I don't even have to do anything except for order the t-shirts, have them sent to the printer, and then have the printer ship them to me, and then I drop them off and I make a pretty penny off that order. And all of that because I mentioned to one client when she said, I need that logo for a bunch of things, including t-shirts. And I said, oh, I do t-shirts as well. So it just goes to show you that your clients don't always know everything that you do. So take every opportunity you have to inform them of the other things you can do for them, because you never know when you'll get another job from them or word will get around. And in this case, 2 brand new clients to do t-shirts for, clients that I've never worked with before. So that's great. So it's been a busy week for me getting new orders, not to mention a bunch of other stuff I've been working on. It's just, wow, I've been really enjoying this month so far. Normally the summer months are slow times for me, but it doesn't look like it is this year. Anyway, now before I continue, I want to remind you that I will be in Chicago on Saturday, July 9th, just exploring the city. I'm there for a conference that finishes on the 8th, and I don't fly out until the 10th. So the 9th, I'm just looking around Chicago to see what the city has to offer, because I've never been there before. And if you are in the area and you'd like to hang out for a bit, maybe just stop for a bite to eat and talk graphic design, or if you want to act as my tour guide for the day, I would love to meet you. If that's something you're interested in, just send me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. And now my resource of the week. For this week's resource, I chose Creative Market, and that's at creativemarket.com. Or if you want to use my affiliate link at resourcefuldesigner.com/creative market. And if you do use that link and you make any purchases, they just add a few credits to my account that I can use for future purchases myself at Creative Market. If you're not familiar with Creative Market, here's the description directly from their website. They say it's a platform for handcrafted, mouse-made design content from independent creatives around the world. They're passionate about making beautiful designs simple and accessible to everyone. And that's basically what it is. It's designs, templates, fonts, resources, brushes, all sorts of stuff that's made by people like you and I that put it on Creative Market to sell. And they sell at a really good price. And they have some really nice stuff. And I've bought stuff there for jobs before that I've needed. Scroll banners and fonts and background images, all sorts of stuff. Now, the great thing is if you sign up for their email, once per week, they send out an email containing 6 different free resources that you can download. And usually there's at least one font, some background image. Sometimes there might be some Photoshop or Illustrator brushes or styles. Sometimes it's stuff for other programs like After Effects or some 3D programs that I don't use. But regardless of what they are, I always make a point to go and download it, because by downloading it, it's as if you purchase it, but you're purchasing it for $0. And even if it's something you don't think you'll use, purchase it. And even if it downloads to your computer, you can delete it off your computer, because in the future, you can always go into your account at Creative Market and access your past downloads. So I make the point of quote unquote purchasing every week's freebies just in case I'll need them in the future. And if it's something that I might use right away, like a font, I'll download it. But the other stuff, I don't bother downloading it once it's purchased, because I know if I ever need it, I can go search through my past purchase history there. So check it out. Creative Market is a great resource. And if you want to make some extra money, you can always create your own store on Creative Market and sell your own things, which is a great way to earn extra income. So once again, I would appreciate it if you did use my affiliate link, and that would be resourcefuldesigner.com/creative market. And now, 7 ways for graphic designers to save money. You know, when you're working on your own, especially if you're a home-based graphic designer, it can be tough to save money. I mean, there's so many things. You've got your personal life, you've got your home expenses, you've got family, maybe your kids are into sports and other activities, camps. You have pets and all sorts of stuff. And it can be really tough to save money or just to make ends meet sometimes, paying your bills. And with so many things involved with our graphic design business where we can spend money, it sure is nice to find ways to save money so that you're not getting rid of all the cash you have. Now, before I get to the 7 ways to save money, I just want to mention a Facebook post that I responded to this morning where a graphic designer was mentioning that he had been saving up money to buy himself a new MacBook. But something came up and they had to spend the money to go on a trip. There was some sort of trip that his daughter was going on to some camp and they were making a special trip and they needed the money to do that. So he was a little upset that the money he had been putting away for his computer was gone, but he was happy that he was going to be able to spend some time with his daughter at this camp thing. But I replied to that message and I'm giving you the same response. When you're running your own business, you're working from home or wherever, but basically if you're working from home, you have to treat it as a business and it's separate from your family. You should have a separate bank account and all that for your business. And if you're saving up money for something like a laptop or something that's going to require a lot of money, you should have a special bank account where you put money in there. It might not be a lot. You might only be putting $10 in at a time, but that's money that should be out of touch for the rest of the family. And that's what I'm doing. I'm actually saving up for a new iMac. The iMac that I'm working on right now is the 2010 model, and it's still working. It's still doing what I need it to do. But it's 6 years old, and I know at some point something's going to start happening with it. So I've been putting money aside in order to buy a new iMac. And even though we have regular bills to pay and unexpected expenses, our cat got sick last month and we had to take her to the vet, and that was almost a $500 vet bill, which we were not expecting. Well, all of these things do add up. But regardless, that money you're putting aside for your business should be out of touch. Even though sometimes my wife and I were trying to struggle, like, can we spend the money on this? Can we spend the money on that? I know that I have a couple of $1,000s sitting in an account there that I'm saving up for a new iMac, but I don't even think about it. My wife knows that that money's there, but she doesn't mention, well, can we use that money? Because that money is for my business. If something happens to my computer, I'm out of work. I can't do anything. So that money is put aside. So before I get into all the savings and where you can save money, I just want to make sure that you know when you're running a business from home, you should be putting money aside for your business. It's very easy to think all this money coming in, I can use it to help pay off my mortgage, pay my car loan, pay for the kids' soccer or scouts or whatever, or pay for the vacation. But some of the money has to stay in your business for things like computers and whatever you need. It's just part of running a business. But if you want to have that extra money to put aside, that's when saving money on your purchases and stuff comes into play. So my 7 ways of saving money. Number 1, hold off on upgrading. We all love getting the newest gadget, the newest software, all sorts of stuff like that. But sometimes there really isn't a good reason for you to upgrade for something. Whether it's software or your phone or your computer or your tablet, make sure that before you purchase something, it's justifiable. I know there are people that get the new iPhone. Every model that come out, they get the new iPhone. But really, do you really need it? Is the current iPhone that you have lacking something that really merits you spending the extra money? I just bought my iPhone 6S a few months ago, but I upgraded from the iPhone 4 that I had for 5 years. And the reason I kept putting off buying a new iPhone is because really, my iPhone 4 was doing everything I wanted it to do. And the only reason I replaced it is because it wasn't holding a charge anymore. Sure, when new iPhones came out, there was stuff that I said, oh, wow, I would like to have that. But it wasn't really hurting me not having it. When the iPhone 4S came out and it had Siri built into it, and I knew people that were using it, and I was thinking, oh, I would love to have Siri. I didn't have it on my iPhone 4, but I got by. Same thing with computers. I just mentioned that I'm saving up for a new computer. I've been using this computer since 2010 when I bought it, and it's been very reliable. It is getting slow, and I'm getting frustrated sometimes with some of the things because I'm waiting and I get that little spinning beach ball. But all in all, I can't complain about the computer. Would I like to get a new one? Yes. But I'm not going to get a new one until I have the money saved up for it and I'm able to get one. So skipping versions of hardware like phones and tablets and computers, or even software. You don't always have to get the newest version of every software. Now, if you're doing something like Adobe Creative Cloud where you're paying a monthly fee and you get the upgrades automatically, that's great. But let me tell you a secret. I'm not on Creative Cloud. I'm still using Adobe Creative Suite version 5 because I didn't want to pay monthly. I'm saving that money. And what happens is every time Creative Cloud comes out with a new upgrade, I look at it and I say, well, I've got Photoshop version 5. What's new in these newer versions that really make it worthwhile for me to start paying monthly for them? And there's yet to be something that I look at and I say, oh, that's a real game changer. I need that feature and it'll make my business so much easier, so much better because of it. There is no feature like that so far that I've seen. Anything that I want to do in Photoshop, I'm perfectly capable of doing it in Photoshop 5, just like Illustrator 5. There might be some newer features in the new ones that would be really handy to have. But for what I use it for, Illustrator 5 works fine for me. So I've been saving money by not converting to Creative Cloud. I do know that someday I will have to convert and I will start paying monthly for it. But in the meantime, I'm going to save that money and keep using the software I have as long as I can. So that's my number one way of saving money, is to just hold off on your upgrades until you really need them and they're justifiable. Now, number 2 is buy in bulk. Whether it's paper, the ink for your printers, lead for your pencils, or your printing stuff. If you're buying business cards, instead of buying 500 business cards, buy 1,000, buy 2,000. Buying in bulk actually works out better. Yes, you may be paying more upfront, but in the long run, you're going to save a lot of money. Just like credits. If you belong to some stock photography site and they sell credits, you get a better discount if you buy 200 credits as opposed to buying 50 credits. Yes, again, you have to put the money up front, but in the long run, you're going to save money by purchasing those credits up front. Anytime you buy something or you have the chance to buy in bulk, you know you will save in money. And it doesn't have to be just online stuff. It could be my mailbox. I've got a mailbox at the UPS store, and I know how much it costs if you pay for a 3-month period, a 6-month period, a 12-month period, or a 24-month period. And by paying for a 24-month period, I'm actually saving money per month on my mailbox costs. The same thing, like if there's software you want to buy and you say, I really need this software, look to see if it's available as part of a software bundle or a graphics bundle. I've acquired so many pieces of software over the years just that way. ScreenFlow for capturing my screen. I waited till it was part of some design bundle with a bunch of other software. The same thing with Backblaze that I use for my backup. I originally purchased it as part of a software bundle. Typinator that I use for expanding type as you're typing stuff. Instead of typing in my entire email, I can just type in 3 keys and my email automatically types out for me. Again, I got that as part of a software bundle. And a lot of times when you purchase these software bundles, you actually pay less for the bundle than you would for one of those pieces of software. So anytime there's a piece of software that you think you might need, look to see if it's available in a bundle. And if you do see that it maybe at one point it was, maybe it's worth waiting for to see it come out again in a bundle. Same thing with design resources. My resource of the week this week is Creative Market. Well, they often put out bundles of different pieces, or Design Cuts, which is another great website at designcuts.com. They always have these special promotions for $29 or $39 where you can get a whole bunch of fonts or a whole bunch of design resources. And no, you might not use all of them, but sometimes just 1 or 2 of them is worth the price of paying for the bundle. So that's number 2 on ways to save money, is buy in bulk. Number 3, pay more now in order to save money later. And what I'm talking about this is buying stuff like a developer license. Sometimes when you buy software, especially if you're working on websites and maybe you're building in WordPress and plugins, like think of the plugin PrettyLink Pro that was actually my resource of the week a couple of weeks ago. Well, PrettyLink does have a free version, which would save you even more money, but I like the features of the Pro version. And what I did is I paid more upfront to get a developer's license. And the developer's license allows me to install PrettyLink Pro on as many websites as I want. Otherwise, I would have to buy an individual license for every website. Now, sure, I could turn around and charge my clients for it, but by purchasing a developer's license, it gives another feature that I can give to my clients that doesn't look like I'm trying to add on to the costs of their website. Not to mention that I can use it on my own websites as well. The same thing with printing services. Now, I've mentioned to you before how at one of my local printers, where I go and sometimes I get copies done on their digital copier, they have a tiered system where if you're getting 1 to 10 copies, it's one price. Then you save money if you're getting from 11 to 20, and then from 20 to 50, then 50 to 100, and 100 to 500, and over 500, and so forth. Well, I pay him up front for, let's say, 1,000 copies at the price for 1,000 copies. But by paying him up front, then he allows me to go in, and even if I want 1, 10, 20 copies, I'm paying the individual per item cost as if I was buying 1,000 copies. So I don't know the prices off the top of my head, but for an example, if I go to get 10 digital copies, and if I was just buying 10, they would be 50 cents a piece. Because I paid for them up front, he's only charging me 10 cents a piece, and he deducts it from the $1,000 I paid him. So that's paying more up front in order to save money later. Now, as well as developer licenses that I mentioned, there's also some times where you can get a lifetime license. And I have quite a few software that gave that option at one point to buy a lifetime license. And yes, you're going to pay a couple of $100s, but some of these softwares are things that you have to pay on a recurring basis, maybe yearly or whatever. But by buying a lifetime license, I never have to pay again. So up front, I ended up spending more. But if it's software I know that I'm going to use over the years, it's well worth buying a lifetime license. Elegant Themes is a great example. resourcefuldesigner.com/elegant. Their WordPress themes are great, and I bought a lifetime license to them, so I never have to pay again to use those themes. And I've been using them for years now without having to pay, because when I first found out about them, I decided to buy the lifetime license. You could do the same thing with domain names. Sometimes you'll find a place, and not everybody will do this, but sometimes they'll say, well, it costs a certain amount to buy a domain per year, but if you buy it for 10 years, you can save money that way. Or website hosting and that sort of thing. Even on computers. When I bought this iMac, I was talking to you about my iMac at the beginning of this episode. I bought this iMac in 2010, but I bought the top of the line iMac that was available. And I also added upgrades that Apple would allow. So I have a bigger hard drive. I had more memory. I upgraded it at the time. Yes, it cost me more up front, but I've been using this computer for 6 years, and really there's nothing wrong with it. I'm saving money because I know that eventually something will, and eventually I will need to replace it. But the only reason this computer is still going strong today is because I spent some extra money up front when I purchased it to make sure it would last this long. If I had just got the default model that was available, I might have had to change my computer a couple of years ago because it wouldn't have been powerful enough to do what I needed it to do. So there's a lot of times when it's good to pay up front in order to save money later. Now, do be careful in some of these things, especially if it's something like maybe groups or membership sites. Sometimes the pay up front costs actually ends up being more expensive. There's a group I belong to for podcasters that when I joined way at the beginning, and it was a special introductory price. I actually joined before the group was formed, so I paid a really, really cheap price, but it was a yearly price I have to pay. Well, once the group was formed and launched, the owners offered a lifetime membership at several $1,000s that a lot of people took them up on because of what the membership offers. But in my case, I did the calculations, and I would have to be a member for 15 years because of my special price in order to work off the price of a lifetime membership. So I decided, even though they gave me the option afterwards to become a lifetime member, I decided I'm better off to just stick at my discounted price and pay them, because I don't know if I'm still going to want to be a member 15 years from now or even 10 years from now. Who knows? So just be careful when you are paying up front. It's a really good idea if you know you're going to be with it for the long run, like my mailbox at the UPS store. I don't mind paying 2 years to save money, but if they offered me a 20-year price if I paid everything up front, I don't know if I'm going to need that mailbox for 20 years, so I would not take them up on that offer. So that's number 3, pay more now and save money later. Number 4, find ways to cut costs. Now, of course, that's a no-brainer, but there are lots of ways for you to cut costs that you may not think of. First of all, just shop around for the best prices. And sometimes the place that you think has the best price might not necessarily be the best price. I had a company that I was buying my ink for I've got an inkjet printer here, and I was buying my ink from them for years, and they were the best price around. Well, when my printer finally broke and I had to buy a new one, and even though I went from an Epson printer to another Epson printer, it takes a different ink cartridge. And I went back to this website to buy ink for my new printer, and just before confirming my order, I decided to go look around just to see what prices were elsewhere. And I ended up finding the ink much, much cheaper ordering it through Amazon. So sometimes you get used to ordering things through one place because they're the best price, but over time, their prices may change. So from time to time, do a little shopping around for something and see if you can find a better price elsewhere. Just like there are 3 different print shops that I can use in town if I need something printed locally. My experience tells me that there's one print shop that does a really good job and that underbids the other two all the time. But I still get quotes from the other two because every once in a while, there'll be a job that one of the other printers ends up quoting cheaper. So even though I know that 90% of the time that one printer is the place to go, that other 10% of the time, I can save money by using one of the other printers. Now, another way to cut costs is to buy refurbished. You know that if you're buying an Apple computer, an iPhone, an iPod, or Airport, or whatever, anytime you're buying something from Apple, you can go directly to their website and click on the refurbished items, and you can purchase it there and save a couple of $100s. Now, in my case, because I want a new iMac that I'm going to customize, you can't buy a refurbished item and have it customized. But my previous iMac before this one, when I had my iMac G5, I had bought it refurbished. My wife's MacBook, that was bought refurbished. Every single iPod my son, my daughter, myself, and my wife have ever owned were all bought refurbished, as well as one of my daughter's iPhones and a bunch of other stuff I've bought from Apple. And Apple's not the only company to offer this. And the great thing about buying refurbished is you get the full warranty as if you were buying a brand new item. It's just you're saving some money. And the refurbished stuff is not necessarily old models. The current available model is often available as a refurbished item. So before spending money on something, if you're just going to buy the base package and you're not doing something like upgrading or customizing it, before you go and spend a couple of $1,000s, look to see if you can save $100, $200, $300, $400 by buying the same item refurbished. Another way graphic designers can save money is hire cheap help. If you're hiring somebody to do something that you're not able to do, there are ways to find people that are much less expensive than others. I had a client once that I had to take over his e-commerce website. I was doing a bunch of other stuff for him as well, and he asked me if I can manage his website. And he had a problem with his website, and I was not familiar with that e-commerce platform. And I could have taken the time to go through and look at everything and try to figure out what the issue was he was having. But instead, I went on the website Elance and I hired an expert on that platform to do the work for me. Now, this person I hired happened to be in India, and he charged me $10 an hour for 10 hours work is what he said it would be. So it cost me $100 to fix the problem. And then I turned around to my client and told him that it's a 10-hour job to fix it, and my hourly rate is, and I told him what my hourly rate was at the time, and that's what I charged him. My client agreed because it took 10 hours to do it. My client didn't need to know that I only paid $10 for somebody to do it, and I made some extra money off of that without actually touching his website. So if you do have to hire somebody to do something, look online to see if there's ways you can find people cheaper. Sometimes you can hire an illustrator to do a job, and it's always nice to buy local. I always love hiring a Canadian here if I need somebody, or even an American for some stuff. Although with the exchange rate, it's really expensive for me to hire somebody in the US. But sometimes it's pretty hard to justify getting, say, an illustration where somebody local will charge me $200 to do an illustration where I can get a very similar illustration done by somebody somewhere else in the world for only $20. So a great way to save money is to hire cheap help. Now, a great way to save money, if you're still taking courses, if you're still in school and you're thinking about starting your own business, or if you're improving your skills by taking some part-time courses at a college or whatever, you can purchase student versions of software. The version of Microsoft Office I have on my computer was actually purchased because my wife was taking some university courses and she needed Office. And I had a really old version on my computer that I don't even remember how I got it, but it wasn't working anymore or barely working. And my wife needed it. So when she was taking these university courses, she purchased Microsoft Office as a student and got a really, really good price on it. And when you buy a license like that, you're allowed usually to install it on one desktop computer and one laptop. So that's what we did. We installed it on my desktop computer and on her laptop computer, and she can use either one. And then she finished her university courses and that was done. But I still have the student version of Microsoft Office on my computer that cost us a lot less than if I would have bought the full one. So if you are a student, or if you have access to student software, like even if you have a child or somebody that's going to university or all that, and you might be able to buy it through their name. As I said, a lot of the licenses, you're allowed to have it on a laptop and a desktop computer. So if your child is going to university and they have their own laptop, technically they're allowed to install the software on their laptop and your desktop computer just in case they need it there. Now, I know it wouldn't be ethical to do that if your child or if your wife or whatever never used your computer. You shouldn't technically be installing it on yours. But in my case, my iMac is also our home computer. So my kids would use it and my wife was using it when she wasn't using her laptop. Just be careful that you're not doing anything illegal as you're doing it. Now, another way to cut costs is to purchase upgrade discounts. A lot of times software will have discounts if you have a previous version. So check to see if you do have a previous version. Now, let me tell you something. I talked earlier about buying software bundles. There was once, and I can't for the life of me remember what the software was. This was going back a few years ago. I don't even know if I still have it on my computer. Hold on, let me check. No, I just looked through my application folder and I can't jog my memory here on which one it was. But I remember that there was a piece of software that I needed and I wanted the newer version for something. And it was going to cost a couple of $100s to buy it. Or it was something like $50 if I had a previous version. And I didn't even know. I looked through my applications folder and I actually had a previous version of the software that I'd never used, that I had purchased through a software bundle. I had purchased a bundle for some other software and this other piece just came with it. And because of that, I was able to upgrade to the newest version of that software for under $50 as opposed to paying a couple of $100s. Now, another little trick, and I can tell you I have used this, is if you have to buy software that's expensive software, sometimes you can purchase an old version of the software either on eBay or somewhere else, providing it comes with a viable license that you can install the software. And once you have it installed, then you pay for the upgrade. As an example, Quark Express just came out with their 2016 version. Now, I'm a big advocate of Quark Express. I've been using them since version 2. I prefer Quark Express to InDesign. And for those of you who might be younger and not familiar, Quark Express was the original page layout program before InDesign was around. And for years and years, it was the go-to program. Well, 2016 was just released for Quark Express, and a lot of the articles are saying that it's now a better page layout program than InDesign is. But that's beside the point. Say you wanted to buy Quark Express. A brand new copy of it would cost you $849 US. But if you had a previous version, you can upgrade for $350, $500 cheaper. So I did a little bit of searching, and I found that you can buy a copy of Quark Express version 7 for $70 on eBay. So if you bought Quark Express version 7 for $70 with a license, installed it, then you can upgrade to the newest version of Quark Express for only $350. So in effect, you would have paid $420 for the newest version of Quark Express instead of paying $850 to buy it outright. So there's a great way to cut costs, and you can do this on lots of stuff. I did this years ago with Final Cut Pro, where it was really expensive at the time. I have no idea what they cost these days, but it was really expensive to buy Final Cut Pro. But they were having some sort of special that if you had Final Cut Express, you can upgrade to Final Cut Pro for next to nothing. So what I did is I found a really cheap copy of Final Cut Express, installed it, and then upgraded to Final Cut Pro. Now, that was still when I was working at the print shop and we were attempting something there. And to be honest, it was a wasted expense because we never ended up using the Final Cut Pro software for what we intended it for. But that's besides the point. I ended up saving quite a bit of money because they had that special upgrade. And I was able to purchase the Express version much cheaper and then upgrade as opposed to buying the full version outright. Another way to cut costs is simply wait for specials. If you're going to buy software, if you're going to buy hardware, if you're going to buy any peripherals that have to go with your computer, wait for days like Black Friday or Boxing Week or even Mother's Day and Father's Day are great days to save money on things. Anytime I need to buy an external hard drive or a flash drive or even a little USB key, I always wait for these special days because I know I can get a really good deal. I have a 4 terabyte Seagate external hard drive sitting on my desk here that I bought during Boxing Week, and I saved 80% off the original cost of it. So those are great ways to save money. It's just wait. If you know you're going to need something, wait and buy them during those special times when they have those really, really good deals. Now, another great way to save costs is to buy budget alternatives to the software you use. Did you know that Serif Draw Plus or Affinity Designer are said to be very close, if not equal to Adobe Illustrator in what they do? And both of those software are roughly about $70 as opposed to the cost of Illustrator. If you don't use Photoshop a whole lot, why not get Photoshop Elements instead? It does most of what Photoshop does, with only some of the key features being left out. Or you can get something like Affinity Photo, again for $69, and it's a really good Photoshop alternative. So if you're just starting out and you're looking for a way to save money and maybe you don't want to get Creative Cloud and pay a monthly license, you can get Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, or some other software and pay them off outright. They'll be yours to own, and you will have only paid what would have cost you maybe 3 or 4 months of renting the Adobe Creative Cloud software. So that's a great way to cut costs. Now, in case you were wondering, the Affinity suite of software will soon be available for Windows. I saw it on their website. They're working on the Windows version. They've been around on the Mac for a few years now. Well, soon they'll be available on Windows as well. So if you are on a Windows platform, that'll be a great alternative to Illustrator, Photoshop, and the likes. Now, number 5 way to save money as a graphic designer is become an early adopter. Whether it's groups, softwares, conferences, all sorts of stuff, a lot of times you can save money by becoming an early adopter. I mentioned earlier that podcasting group I belong to. I joined that group before the group even formed. I heard they were thinking of putting this group together, and they were asking if anybody was interested, please put some money down. So I thought this was a great group to join, and I decided to pay up front. I became an early adopter, and that's the one that price that I paid, which was so cheap, is now my yearly fee to be in that group. And I can tell you that the yearly fee to be in that group now is almost 20 times the price that I paid. So by being an early adopter, I'm saving a lot of money, and I'm part of that great group. You can do the same thing with software. Sometimes you'll hear about some developer coming up with a new version of software, and maybe they want you to get on board with the beta version or something. And I've done that before where I pay for a beta version of the software, and then you're given first crack when the full version comes out to purchase it. And I have several pieces of software that I have a lifetime license for them because I got them as beta versions, and I never have to pay for them again. But they decided to go with the subscription model, and now people are paying yearly for them. But I don't. A great place to find these is stuff like Indiegogo or Kickstarter. You can find some great things on there and get in on the ground floor, whether it's hardware, software, whatever. But sometimes by sponsoring them or supporting them on Kickstarter, you can get in at some really, really low prices and save money in the long run. Same thing with conferences. A lot of conferences will offer cheap tickets up front, and then the tickets get more expensive as the conference gets closer and closer. If you think you might attend, whether it's confirmed or not, if you think there's a possibility of you attending this conference, buy the ticket as early as you can. Because then what happens is either two things. First of all, if you don't attend the conference, a lot of times just the fact that you had a ticket gives you access to, maybe they video record a lot of the conference and you'll have access to watch the videos afterwards, even though you weren't able to attend. Or sometimes as the conference gets closer, you can actually turn around and sell your ticket. If you decide that you can't go, say you spend $200 to attend some special conference that's a year from now, but as time gets closer, the price keeps going up and up and up. And then you decide, or for some reason you realize you can't make the conference. You could easily turn around and say, well, I've got a ticket I'm willing to sell for $300, which is a bargain because now tickets are selling for $700 because we're only a couple of months away from the conference. And you could sell yours for $300 or $400 and make some money off of it. So you can make money that way, but if you do decide to go to the conference, you will have bought the cheapest ticket available. That's exactly what I did for this conference I'm going to in Chicago. It happens to be a podcasting conference, but I was at the conference last year in Fort Worth, Texas. And when they announced that this year's conference would be in Chicago, and they said, here are the prices of the tickets. If you want to buy them, you had until midnight that day to get that special price. I jumped on it and I bought my ticket. I didn't know if I would be going or not. I hadn't discussed it with my wife or anything. But I knew that I would be able to sell that ticket easily if I wasn't going. And if I was going, which it turns out that I am, I'm much happier having spent that little amount on the ticket as opposed to what tickets are going for now. So a great way to save money as a graphic designer is simply become an early adopter for groups, software, beta version, member groups, conference tickets, anything you could think of. The earlier you purchase it, usually the cheaper it'll be. And if you end up not needing it, you can always sell it again later. Now, number 6 in ways graphic designers can save money is gain points by paying with a credit card or by referring people. I have a Visa card that I use for my business. Anytime I buy anything that has to do with online, or if I go buy stuff at the print shop, when I place an order for a client for t-shirts or whatever, I pay all that stuff with this one credit card I have, this one Visa card. And with it, I collect points that go towards trips or flying. And this conference that I'm taking to Chicago, my plane ticket is completely covered with my points from my business. See, I'm saving money because I don't have to buy a plane ticket. By using the credit card, I was able to pay for my flight. The other thing you can do is gain credits by referring people. I mentioned at the beginning that my resource of the week this week is Creative Market. Well, and I also said that I had an affiliate link, and if you use the link resourcefuldesigner.com/creative market, that'll take you there, but that's using my link. So any purchases you would make would give me credits so that the next time I need to buy something from them, it wouldn't cost me anything. I would just use my credits. So it's another great way to save money is by sometimes referring people. If you own some software, by owning it, they have a way that they allow you to refer people. And if you get somebody else to buy it, then you save the next time you need to upgrade or purchase something from that company. So take advantage of all these things where you can get extra points or get extra credits, whether it's via credit card or referrals or whatever. It's a great way to save money. And the last, number 7, way to save money is simply take advantage of freebies. There are tons of free fonts, images, resources, a lot of times trial versions. I mentioned Creative Market. Once again, you sign up for their list and every week they send an email out with 6 different resources that you can download absolutely free. And whether you think you're going to use them or not, you click on the download and then you can delete them. They'll be in your purchased item. And I have a bunch of fonts, great fonts that I've used on some really good projects that I got absolutely free through there. The marketplace over at Envato, same thing. Every month they offer a free resource in each one of their categories. And you can get a free WordPress plugin or theme. There's free graphics, there's free audio, there's free video, free images, all sorts of stuff. Some stock photo sites do the same thing, where they'll put a free photo of the week for you to download. Or in some cases, a place like Graphic Stock, which you could sign up for by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/graphic stock for a one-time yearly fee of, if I remember correctly, it's $99, and then you can download as many photos if you want. Well, you can sign up for a free trial for 7 days. And during that 7 days, you can download as many photos as you want. You can download their entire library if you wanted to, and then quit. If you want to learn something, sign up for a free trial at lynda.com by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/Lynda. That's Lynda with a Y. And when you sign up, you get 10 free days to access all of their videos. So if there's one thing you want to learn, like say there's a new version of the software or there's a new software that you want to learn, if you think you could do it within 10 days, sign up for their free trial, watch the videos, learn the software, and then cancel the trial. It won't cost you a cent, and yet you will have learned that software or skill or whatever, whether it's learning HTML or PHP or some other coding language or learning a new software or a new skill. There are tons and tons of freebies out there if you just look for them. Not to mention software. If you don't want to pay for Photoshop, there's software like GIMP or Photoscape that are both free alternatives and very, very good alternatives to Photoshop. So freebies are a great way, obviously, of saving money. So those are my tips for this week. 7 ways to save money as a graphic designer. Once again, number 1, hold off upgrading for as long as you can. Number 2, buy stuff in bulk whenever possible. Number 3, pay more for stuff now in order to save money down the road. 4, find ways to cut costs. 5, become an early adopter and save money. 6, gain points by paying with credit cards or gain credits by referring people and use those points or credits to purchase stuff later without spending any money. And number 7, take advantage of freebies. And that one speaks for itself. So those are my 7 tips for saving money as a graphic designer. So are there any ways that you use to save money that I didn't mention in the podcast? Be sure to leave a comment on the show note page at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 37. I would love to hear your thoughts. And now, my question of the week. This week's question comes in from Michael. It says, I'd love to hear your thoughts on creative placement agencies and if it would be a good idea to work with one to find jobs, or would I be better served flying solo and try marketing myself as a freelancer or potential employee? I'm sure there are pros and cons to both sides. Thanks in advance. Well, thank you for the question, Michael. And to be honest, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this. I have never dealt with a creative placement agency. I know there are some designers that swear by it, but I've always flown solo, as you put it, and marketed myself. So that's the only thing I know. But what you have to decide is whether you want to be a freelancer, and I hate that term. Just listen to episode 17 of the podcast where I talk about how calling yourself a freelancer could actually hurt your business. But regardless, that is what you would be as a freelancer. But you also mentioned being a potential employee. So you have to decide which route you want to go. Are you just looking for work in the meantime until you find a permanent full-time job working for somebody else? If that's the case, then yes, a creative placement agency might be a really good fit because they might place you somewhere that would eventually hire you on. But if your ultimate goal is to work for yourself in a freelance position, running your own business, then a creative placement agency might not be a good thing. You should just market yourself from the get-go and try to get jobs that way. Because the thing with creative placement agencies, they'll place you somewhere. Well, a lot of times you can't use any work you do there in your own portfolio because technically you're working for the other company. Even if it's on a contract basis, the work is considered to have been done for that other company, not for yourself. So unless you have some special arrangement, you can't actually use any of that work in your portfolio yourself in order to promote yourself. So as I said, it all depends on what your ultimate goal is. If you are looking, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to work for somebody else, find a job that pays well, designing at some agency, at some business, maybe an in-house design department at some company. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And to be honest, the majority of graphic designers, that's what they end up doing. But the few of us who do want to run our own thing, either from home or somewhere else, but run our own business, the only way to get that is by marketing yourself and concentrating on what you do, building your own portfolio. It will be slow at first, but you will slowly build up a client list, get work coming in, and you will be better for it. So I don't know if that really answers your question, Michael. As I said, I might not be the best person because I've never worked at a creative placement agency. I worked for 15 years at the same printer, and then I left there to start my own thing. So I've never worked with anything like that. I've never worked with anybody to try to find a job somewhere. It went from working at a place where people would walk in the front door giving us orders to me working on my own, trying to get jobs my way. And that was it. But I do wish you the best of luck, whichever direction you want to go. If you do want to work for somebody or if you do want to work for yourself, I wish you the best of luck, Michael. There is no one way that's better than the other. It all comes down to personal preference. And you know what? Over time, your preference might change as well. I know that I do not believe that somebody that's coming fresh out of school, and if that's the case, if you're fresh out of school or you've only been in the industry for a couple of years, then you might want to look for a job with somebody else. I don't think somebody coming out of school should start their own business right away. I think you need the experience working for somebody else to know how the business is run, how people deal with clients, and get that interaction and that experience before you start your own business. I think that's essential. For your business to succeed, you need some sort of background in that. At least that's my thoughts. So I do appreciate the question, Michael. I'm sorry I couldn't have been more help, or maybe I was help. I don't know. You can let me know. But I love getting the question. Now, if you would like to submit a question for my question of the week, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and fill out the form there, leaving a question for me, and I'll answer it in a future episode of the podcast. Now, at this time, I haven't actually decided what my topic's going to be for next week's episode, so it'll be a surprise to you. But just keep an eye out on your podcast feed, and I'm sure it'll be a great one. And one more time, although I've mentioned it several times in this episode, my resource of the week this week is Creative Market, a wonderful resource for getting free and inexpensive resources for all sorts of design needs. And my affiliate link for them is resourcefuldesigner.com/creative market. So that's it for this episode of Resourceful Designer. I wish you all the best in your graphic design business, and I hope that your summer is starting out to be as busy as mine is. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.